What is going on, everybody? It is your boy Big Play Slay here, coming back with yet another live stream. This time with one of the most reoccurring guests on the panel or on the channel. It's been one good long minute since we've collabed. My guy Hunter from the Philly Insider Podcast. What is going on, Hunter? Let them know where they can find you, my guy.
Yeah, well, first off, man, thank you for having me. Like you said, it's been a minute, and I do got to get you on my channel. It's been a minute since we've collabed on there. So, yeah, we got to do this more often. I just got so busy with the semester that I'm glad I got time now, though, and I should have more time this upcoming semester. So I'm looking forward to talking, especially you're one of the guys who I talk a lot of draft stuff with. So that'll be fun to look at that. And yeah, you guys can find me on Philly Insider Podcast, InsideTheEagles.com, and I'm looking forward to talking some birds with you today, Big Play Slide. What do we got?
Yes. Just want to give a couple shout outs right quick to the people in the chat. What is going on, AB? What is going on, Nina? Thank you guys for stopping by. It's been one interesting year for the Philadelphia Eagles. None of us, most of us didn't think we were going to get into the playoffs. Maybe some of us, and that was probably like a slim percent of the Eagles fans. Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you, based on the first question, and I'll just give another shout out to Philly Notion, my guy. What is going on? Playoff vibe, yes, sir. But what is your overall thought on the Philadelphia Eagles this year?
Yeah, man. I mean, well, you and me both had them around 7 or 8 wins, I think. We were both like right at the same mark. And I think even before this last week, the win this last week, they far exceeded my expectations. I mean, Jalen Hurts has shown some progression throughout the year that I was hoping to see. That's a big thing. I was really hoping to see Jalen Hurts take some steps, and I think he's taken enough steps to get a year 3, and we'll see how he does in year 3, of course. But that was the big, goal for him this year, I think. And I think Ceriani, he's taken the big steps we needed him to take. And Gannon, I think we'll see. He'll be tested in the first round. I'm still kind of skeptical on him, but look, this is a young roster. We have a good mix of like young guys and veterans, and I think the young guys are taking steps forward. And I think the biggest thing, my overall thought, I think would be that these guys show up when it matters most. And these guys like Josh Sweat, like he always shows up in the last 4 games. Boston Scott and Greg Ward, they're always coming up with a few big plays in, the games that matter the most. Like these guys know how to make plays when we need them to. Like Roddy McLeod, like the veteran, getting a couple picks at the end of the season to really help us there. So, they really did exceed my expectations this year. Now, again, we had a pretty, I want to be polite and say lenient, back half of the season. It wasn't exactly like we were playing any world beaters out there, but people forget, like, our first half of the season was the complete opposite. Most teams kind of get a mix where they get, a couple nice teams along the way, and then they'll play a nice tough game. Ours was just all our heavy loaded opponents were the first half of the season, and then all our not heavy opponents were the back half of the season. That's just kind of the way it worked out. But look, I mean, other teams, it doesn't like we had the easiest. I mean, I know before the year we had the easiest schedule coming in, but I don't think we had necessarily the easiest trip to the playoffs in the NFL because we did play some tough opponents early on. But my overall thought is this team, they far exceeded where I thought they would be. So what are your thoughts, Big Play Sly?
I mean, this team, as you said, like going into the season, I had this team at 7-10. At 8, at the most, I could have seen them at 8-9, maybe 9-8. But I think when I saw this team and their schedule, I saw a 7-10 team, and that's just me being a realistic fan. Now, as an Eagles fan, of course I'm gonna think 12, 13 wins, but I know I don't think that like in all real life. But in all realism, though, I had this team at 7-10. I thought this was a young rebuilding team that was still, accumulating draft picks and stuff to build for the future and just give Jalen Hurts a chance. This season, he's kind of progressed a little bit, but I think it's just the overall designs and the development that's helped this team this year. Just based off of the overall thought. I think it's been the development personally, because when we had Doug Peterson, Jim Schwartz, you really didn't see players developing. So when you get these guys, Sirianni and Gannon, they kind of know how to develop players because they were
Yeah.
doing that with the Colts because they were positional head coaches or positional coaches. One with the Chargers, Gannon, I think he was with the Vikings and the
Yeah.
Colts. So
Mhm.
they kind of had to develop players because they were positional coaches. Now, Jim Schwartz and Doug Peterson, those guys were like older coaches, so they were going to get like those higher rankings. And these guys, they get a chance and they develop players. And I think this team has progressed a lot this year. And that could be because we've had a cupcake schedule, maybe a little bit of that. But I mean, we can't handpick our schedule. That's what the
Right.
NFL is. So we have to play the teams that are on our schedule, and we can't handpick it. Now, I would have loved to seen this team play a team like the Rams this year, just to give a little bit of a test,
Yeah.
um, or like a push to make something happen against the Rams. But that didn't happen. We can't handpick. But I mean, this team has fought through hard. I mean, they have what 9 wins now. They're about to make the playoffs. They've clinched
Yeah.
the playoffs. This team has definitely fought here. It's
Mhm.
been up and downs, definitely for the defense. Offensively, you have struggles with Jalen here and there, but and you also have struggles with the receivers, Rager. Um, Sometimes you could say the offensive line, but they've held it down this year.
Yeah.
They really have held it down this year. But this team, I would just say A+ or A-, anywhere in that range.
Mhm.
For a team that everyone thought was going to rebuild. I
Mhm.
thought teams competed.
Yeah.
Now, do you have anything else to say about that?
I mean, I would probably land probably around in terms of like relative to expectations, definitely A- B+ range. I mean, they, like you said, wasn't perfect and we did have a schedule, but you have to play the teams that are in front of you. It's all you're asked to do in the NFL. And look, we even got ripped off. They gave Washington a couple extra days to prepare, and we still beat them. I know Garrett Gilbert was out there. Yeah, twice. I know Garrett Gilbert was out there the one time, but still, like we still took care of business against them and got the job done. That's all you got to do at the end of the day. And I thought even like this last week, the Giants game, I was really starting to worry about Jalen. But then this last week, I was like, that was one of the better games I've seen Jalen play as a pro. And it won't show in the box score. Like people are going to say, like 17-26, 214 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Like, not a big deal. He managed the game. But like when you watch that game, he looked very composed, very poised, very on time and in rhythm. Like he looked like I haven't seen him look that, kind of that special in a little bit. So it was a good way for him if that was like his last game of the season before we go into the playoffs. That's a good way for him to kind of go finish off the regular season. Now we'll see. I mean, the resting starters all thing. I mean, I think the amount of COVID cases we have right now, that could definitely affect our decision. I think that might lean us towards sitting some guys coming up, but we'll see what they decide upon. They might want to get some momentum and play for seeding. The thing is, you don't really have to play for seeding because if the Niners lose and the Saints win, you're the 6th seed. So that's what you're looking for. It doesn't really, you don't have to, you can secure a 6th seed with a win, but you don't have to. So yeah, I think that they're in a really good spot right now. I mean, how many teams do you have that, make the playoffs with 9 or 10 wins and then go into the offseason with 3 first-round picks? That doesn't happen too often. So, look, you got to give some credit to Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. I'm not a fan of both of them over the past year or so, but over their, long tenures in Philadelphia, this team has almost always been competing for a playoff spot. And there's been some rough years, some bumps in the road, but they do deserve some credit for the roster they put together this year.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Um, I just wanted to pull this up because to answer Philly Notion's question, he said, "Yes, sir." I just realized I didn't give you a wrench before this, and I was surprised. But he says, "I'd like to know if you fellas consider Jalen a top 15 quarterback or below." I'll let you
Mm.
take that one, Hunter.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Philly Notion. I mean, look, here's what I'm gonna say is I think he's like right there on the verge. I think there's I think it's tough. I think there's a lot of quarterbacks who are kind of in that same boat as Jalen, where they're kind of like either right in front of top 15, or like I think there's really only been like 6 or 7 guys who really solidified themselves this year. And I can't name them off the top of my head. I'd really have to go look. But I mean, obviously you got the Rodgers up there, you got the Brady's and all them. Those guys are well above everyone else. But after that, there's kind of a tier of like, all right, this guy's like good enough, but he's not great. For example, like Carson Wentz, like obviously the run game has helped him massively in Indianapolis. Or like a Derek Carr, like he started off red hot, but kind of cooled off in the back half, kind of like the Raiders always do. Guys like that, guys like Tannehill, who the run game helps him, like they're kind of all in that like middle range there. And I think Jalen, it's hard to tell. I'd probably have him a little bit behind those guys. So I'm not sure if I'm willing to call him a definite top 15 quarterback yet. But if not this year, I mean, I think next year he can definitely solidify that. I just think, from my perspective, I still have a lot more I want to learn about Jalen as a player. And I think a lot of that progression will come in a year 3. So if I had to say right now, I'd say he's like right at 15 or maybe a little bit below. I wouldn't be mad if you argued that he's, a top 15 quarterback, though. I think it's very, very close. So I don't really have like a definitive, yes, this is the answer for, my perspective on it. But you think he's a top 15 guy?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think he's a top 15 quarterback, but he's definitely in that 20s. I would say maybe late teens range,
Mhm.
anywhere in that range. He's definitely proven that he's gotten a lot better. Now his accuracy, scanning the field, still has issues. I would say more of the execution in that first Giants game wasn't good from him. He made a lot of
Mhm.
bad decisions in that game. Now, granted, the execution in that game wasn't really that good either way. We had chances to get into the red zone and we didn't score. But like,
Yeah.
you can say that's Jalen's fault, and I can also argue that it's sometimes the playmaker's fault. But
Yeah.
we go give that game to Jalen because he made a lot of poor decisions. But I don't think he's like polished yet, like Brady Mahomes, as you said. He's not there yet. I think you froze my guy. But he's not like really polished yet. So personally, I would say he's in that late teens direction. Um, so anywhere between 19 or 20, or a year back. My bad. Um,
Yeah.
so I just wanted to pull this up right quick because I need to share my screen right quick because Chris Sims put this out before the season. Right here. All right. So I want to know if you guys can see that. So this was his list. Now,
Uh,
all right, I'll put this down. Yeah, I think you froze, Hunter. Yeah.
I can see it now.
All right. So, where does Jalen fall in that mix? Because now we have a little bit of a better like understanding of this list that Chris Sims put out earlier in the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think he did. I will give Chris Sims some credit. He did self scout, and he admitted today that that was one of his really bad preseason takes, along with his other take that Devontae Adams wasn't a top 10 wideout going into the season. Which I don't
Don't
know how
even
you would
give
take
me,
that take, but
don't even get me
what'd you say?
started with that. Don't even get me
Yeah.
started with
I I
that.
just I don't know.
Yeah, but go ahead.
No, yeah, I completely agree with you, man. I don't know how. Like, I'll give him the Jalen Hurts one. Like,
Yeah,
I should he have had him in his top 40? Absolutely. But like I can see why he didn't. Devontae Adams, I see no reason why he should be outside of the top 10. So
yeah,
but yeah, I'd agree with you like on this list. Like, I think I'd move Kirk up. I know Kirk isn't good in prime time, but like he's played well. I'd move him up. Herbert, I think, has definitely moved up into like the top 5 conversation. You take Watson out of the list because he's not playing right now. Stafford's one I'm like really torn on. I think he's better than Jalen, but he's been giving away picks like Christmas in the back half of the season. And
yeah.
then, I think Baker definitely moves down. Baker had, probably his worst year as a pro, which I thought was 2018, but he kind of topped that, or 2019, I think it was. But Burrow definitely moves up on this list. Carson probably moves up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if you look at that list, all the things I just said, Jalen's definitely like around that 15 to 20 range, at least this year.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, he's kind of already proven that he's going to retire after
Yeah.
this season. And then you have Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, the NFL nowadays, his style of quarterbacking is not going to work anymore. They want those raw pocket passers that can actually get out of the pocket and stuff. And Jimmy,
Yeah.
it's pretty easy to get money in cash when you could just hand the ball off to those running backs down there in San Francisco. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's better than Jimmy as of today's world. And
Mhm.
this.
Oh, yeah.
So, personally, I would have to say he's at least 18. Maybe Matt Ryan falls down in this list too, because
Mhm.
aging, and he might fall down. I would probably put Wentz over Matt Ryan. Some of these quarterbacks, yeah, I have to put Burrow, Cousins, Wentz all over Matt Ryan.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, but the Devontae Adams one that had me mind blown. I still don't understand that. I don't understand it. So
I would
yeah, let's get to the second question. How have you felt about the team's play throughout the year? This entire team, it's just a whole.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, again, it really just splits up into first half, second half. That Detroit Lions game was definitely the turning point this year, which, again, I said this in my video yesterday. When we were playing the Lions game and dominating them, did I think that was the turning point? No, I thought we were beating up on a crappy team that just didn't come to play that day, even though the Lions have come to play against some teams. But, looking at hindsight being 2020, a lot of the changes that we made in that game, kind of powered what we did the rest of the season. The change to a run first offense. I mean, that really started that day with Boston Scott and Jordan Howard just eating up the Lions on the ground, right? And that helped Jalen Hurts get a lot more comfortable, I think, in the pocket. That game you had, I think either before or after that game, Eric Wilson got cut. And TJ Edwards was made the 3-down Mike linebacker, and
Yeah,
he's been phenomenal this year. We'll talk about him, I'm
it,
sure.
it was the Buccaneers game that Eric Wilson got cut. I think after that game, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, that game also, Davion Taylor was given a lot of reps. And obviously, he got, but that's a guy for the future. Like, he's going to be a key part. And, they stopped the linebacker rotation, I think is the point. They were rotating all those guys for certain downs and situations and stuff. But now they kind of found their guys, and the guys have earned to step up that game. Now, that didn't really carry over the rest of the season. I think that's something that the defense, to play better as a team and as a unit, the pass rush has got to be, it can't just be Josh Sweat coming around the edge with his incredible bend and just speeding around guys, right? It's got to be, Milton Williams, Javon Hargrave, and Fletcher Cox with some stunts on the inside, getting home every once in a while. Like, those guys have been better at the back end of the season, but I think we need one of those guys to really like be the guy in the middle. Whoever, and that pretty much comes down to whoever's not going to get double teamed that game, right? Because either one of Cox or Hargrave is going to get double teamed. And then, Barnett, can Barnett actually do something? So I think the defensive front, especially with Gannon, the way he plays things and the way he likes to get home with four a lot of the time, I think playing as a team on defense could improve with, some more, talent at the pass rusher position. And I think that's something we can address in the offseason too. Again, 3 first-round picks, we could, there's the 3 big guys, which are Hutchinson, Ajabo, and Thibodeau. And then maybe some other people consider like there's a 4th or 5th, but there will be, there's always, Joshua was a 4th-round pick. There's always going to be guys you can snag in the draft. Even if we're in the late 20s, we could still get a solid pass rusher like last year when it was like Kwity Paye and some of those guys fell to the 20s. So I think Jalen Phillips was like right before the 20s, but that's something I think could help us play more as a team on defense. Other than that, I think the defense, I think the secondary has played team football. Look, I know Washington fans wanted the PI call on that last play where McLeod got the pick. I didn't think it was a guy, but Cloud could make that play on the ball, right? I mean, if not, if Harris gets beat, McLeod's looking to pop Bates or make a play on the ball. He's not looking to intercept it. So like team plays like that, I think on the back end have been huge. Giving guys like Steven Nelson, being able to give him safety help because we know Slay can just go with a man everywhere he goes. That's something that helps a ton too. So I think the defensive unit, they played some good team ball. Offense, yeah, I mean, it's just really been complimentary football from the run game and keeping our defense off the field, making sure that Jalen Hurts is comfortable in the pocket and feeding your best playmakers. I mean, that's what they're really doing. I think they've done a good job utilizing their personnel, showing teams some weird looks too, just to confuse them, like the Darius Slay. I'm sure you were excited about that when he was on offense. I was at that game and I was like, what the heck is he doing in the offensive huddle right now? But things like that, I think they've been creative. And I think from the coaching staff to the players, I think on offense, they have played a lot of team football. And like you said, the only way you can play team football is with a good offensive line. That's the only way you can play team football. So I've been very pleased with them leading the way, whether it's run blocking or pass protection. I think that's another thing. The coaching staff has let them run block a lot more, and they're giving the hits to the defensive linemen rather than absorbing them in pass protection. I think that's something offensive linemen like to do. So I think they've done a really good job playing as a unit and as a team this year. And I think to wrap up my answer, the special teams unit has really played as one. Now they've had their issues in certain spots, but punt coverage has been great. Kick coverage has been great. I think kick return unit hasn't been that good, but that's something we can clean up. And the three specialists, Lovato, Sitbos, and Elliott, they're all doing their jobs. So it's all you can ask for a team. When your specialists are playing well, you only need one other phase to go well for you.
I agree with you. Yeah, so as you spoke on the draft, and another guy that you could talk about in this draft that we might look at for the linebacker position, and I think he might fall based off of the rise of the quarterbacks, is Nakobe Dean. And I've heard people like say that he's not the best like pass coverage linebacker. Then you also have the chance to get a guy like Christian Harris in the second round who could slip to the second round. So, and that could be based off of his combine, how some of these guys do in the combine. I mean, it takes one throw just to put your rise up in the draft for quarterback. So that's one thing that is going to rise a guy like Kenny Pickett, Correll. I know he's injured, but he's going to get a chance to look at his pro day. So, I mean, personally, I'd love to get a guy like Kyle Hamilton, but I know that's not going to happen. He's a safety, but I just don't see him slipping. So right now,
a lot of people are still mocking him to us, but yeah. I think I haven't checked the mocks like recently, but I personally still think he's a top 5 pick.
Definitely, I could see a team like Houston banking on him, his talent. I could see that happening. Team like Houston,
absolutely.
But I would personally like a guy like Karlaftis. I know he's not going to fall. He'll probably be in the top 10. A guy like a David Ajabo, Majid Sanders. I'm just looking at some of those guys. And who's the other guy? Devin Lloyd from Utah.
Yes.
Another guy. So those are my like 3 guys. And Daxton Hill from Michigan, the safety from Michigan. Those are some of the guys that I want. But we've already covered on this topic. So head coach, as everyone likes to call him, including Philly 500, the canola guy, the Italian chef, Nick Ceriani. What has been your thoughts about Nick Ceriani this season? How do you think coach these boys up?
I think it's been nice to have the Italian chef rather than all the chefs we had in the kitchen last year, right? You didn't know who was really the next guy up to Peterson in terms of play calling and everything, and who was helping him. We know it's Steichen, and we know Sirianni is the main guy in terms of play calling. You were there in my live when this was back like a year ago when Sirianni. Well, actually, it was my live when I was looking at which coaches we could hire. That was when it was like McDaniels, Sirianni, and I think like Dennis Allen might have been another option. There was other guys available, but I mean, I know I was like keen in on Sirianni, and I was like, all right. Which is that?
Yeah, Deuce Staley too. Deuce Staley, because he was in the organization.
Like
So yeah,
that's yeah, correct. Yeah. Yeah, but like I remember looking at Sirianni and you and me both really liked him. And when he went 2-5, I was panicking because I was like, this guy is doing nothing that I said he was gonna do before the season. And I was, he was making me look real stupid. Um, but I think the big thing I like about Nick Sirianni is, he is an approachable coach. Look, a lot of these coaches get very stuck in their ways and they want to say, this is the way we're going to do things. Chip Kelly, I think Chip Kelly has his system and he's a big believer in his offensive philosophy. And look, the dude's an offensive genius. I'm not going to rip on his offensive philosophy, but I also think there is a lot of success that can come when you have a coach like Nick Sirianni who midseason, the offensive linemen come up to him and say, hey, we can run the football against any of these teams. Coach Stoutland knows that every team's run fits. We have talent on the front five, and we can just run the ball down any defense's throats. And when you have that approachability where Nick Sirianni is willing to go, you know what? You guys are right. I'm going to start running the ball a little bit more. And he did. And we destroyed the Saints run defense. The Saints have one of the best run defenses in the NFL. And 2 years in a row, we have absolutely obliterated it. So look, I think that approachability is something that could keep him around in Philadelphia for a long time. I think his play calling. He has his issues from time to time. I think you got to do a little bit better, but every coach has their moments in games where they don't call the best play in and all that, and they have to adjust. But he's a young coach. He's learning, and some guys it just takes a little bit more for them to click. Now, for Nick Sirianni, it took him 7 games or so, and then it clicked. And I didn't expect it to click to the point where we'd be in contention for a playoff spot, and here we are. We clinched one in his first season. That's something Doug Peterson could not do in his first season. I think, no offense, Doug Peterson, he won a Super Bowl in his second season, so kind of worked out well. But the fact that Nick Ceriani took a 4-win roster from last year, a lot of the same guys too. Like we did bring in some reinforcements, and we have the new draft class. He got some help, but a lot of these guys from last year did take a step up. I think from just being around Coach Sirianni. And to your credit, while I'm skeptical on Gannon, I think one of your points I completely agree with. He has developed a lot of guys on that side of the ball. Like TJ Edwards has blossomed under Jonathan Gannon. Avonte Maddox, finally going back to the slot. He has blossomed under Jonathan Gannon. Darius Slay, your guy. He has had his best years. He was only played 2 years as an Eagle, but I thought last year he was good. I don't know what the whole deal was with people really not giving him his credit last year, but he has played phenomenal this year in Jonathan Gannon's scheme for as much crap as it's been given. So there's a lot of guys who are really playing good football right now. And I think if you can get, like you said, if you can get like a Devin Lloyd in there and maybe another pass rusher like Karlaftis or something like that, we'd be really lucky to get both of those guys, but you never know. Some guys fall. We'll find out what their stock looks like in draft season. Point being, you can get a good pass rusher and a really good linebacker in that round one. And they're both best player available when you're on the board. You're sitting really pretty coming on defense next year. So I think credit to Nick Sirianni for the coaching staff he's brought in. Good motivator too. So, got to give him a lot of credit for the progress he's made this season. How have you felt about our guy Nick Ceriani?
Yeah. Personally, I loved how Sirianni's performed as a head coach this year. Just the 2-5 start for us. Just not a good start. The fan base was really skeptical of his play calling. Just being a little too pass happy in games where you shouldn't have been. Just making a quarterback that really doesn't like to stand back in the pocket and just keep throwing it literally every single game. For I believe 7 games straight. So I felt like he's matured this year. Just as a head coach, in his first year, he's matured as a head coach. And he's willing to mature as a head coach. When the fan base, and sometimes the fan base always isn't right, but if you're willing enough to listen to the fan base when they're right, to tell you to run the ball, and you have Devontae Smith screaming for your neck to run the ball on a video that literally was read. So that just shows maturity. And I love that about Sirianni, that he's willing to mature. So I felt like his performance this year as just a guy that came in, really had no expectations. You just fired the prior head coach. You just got rid of the franchise quarterback. You dealt him to the team that he just got from, and now he's in this
Yeah.
situation. Um, so it's been one heck of a journey with Sirianni this year. It's been up and downs, of course, but that's any rookie head coach. And
Yeah.
you're willing to mature, and that's one thing I like about Sirianni. And I think he can be um, the prime reason we could be in the playoffs for the next couple of years.
Mhm.
So I love how he's performed this year
Yeah.
as just head coach. And Drew says it's funny, most of the things we as fans have been asking for has come to fruition. Yeah, it has, man. Really
Yeah.
has. Ryan, what's
Crazy.
going on, man? How are you doing, Ryan? All right. So as we speak about the defense, just touching on the draft, the linebackers, those Sam linebackers. How have you felt about Jonathan Gannon this year?
Yeah, he's a guy who also has had his ups and downs for sure. I've gone back and forth on Gannon. I think the last few weeks I've kind of been skeptical of him just because look, I think anyone can shut down a Jake Fromm led Giants offense. I mean, that's not a very tall task. Obviously maybe the Texans have a little trouble stopping it, or like another team. Credit to the Texans though. They do have I think they have like the 15th ranked pass defense, which for their record is pretty impressive. But I think there's, probably a couple teams maybe that would struggle that are the league worst. But look, I don't think he's played a ton of competition down the stretch. And I think that's tough because obviously we saw what, like the Buccaneers offense and the Chiefs offense did to Gannon's defense. And yeah, I mean, of course they're going to do, ideally you'd like him to at least scheme up a couple stops and say, look, you can do anything else, but we're going to take away this thing from you and see how one of those offenses reacts. Right. And that's tough because they have so many different things they can do on those offenses. But like, if you say we're going to sacrifice this, but we're going to take away this from you guys, let's see how you guys react. I'd like to see a little more of that from Gannon, but at the same time, there hasn't been a need for it. And he's called the games he's needed to call with the opponent that's been in front of him. And honestly, to his credit last week, look, I was getting a little frustrated because Taylor Heineke and that Washington offense, for whatever reason, were that first drive, they marched down the field on us. Now, they didn't get a touchdown the rest of the game. We were able to come up with a couple stops, but the Jannard Avery interception that got negated by a penalty, I thought that was a terrible penalty. I mean, Avery, maybe he hit him a little further than 5 yards, but what happened on the Greg Ward, and there was a Greg Ward catch later in the game. He caught the ball after it was a scramble drill, but he got contacted and held for like 5-6 yards early in his route. So, I didn't think the refs called the game very well. But point being, like, I thought that was, Avery was in position to make that play, and Gannon called up a good play call. I think he's used Avery very well. Like, you see Avery a lot of times on those interior stunts where he just gets into the grill of these guards and pushes them back. And Avery's getting a lot of pressure lately. Credit to him. He's not a big guy. Like, he's a little bit smaller to be a pass rusher, but he's done a good job of that. And yeah, I think you do have to give Gannon some credit for the way he has developed these guys. But I do worry when we're in the playoffs, like if we play the Bucs again. And I know the Bucs don't have the same weapons they had. Obviously, they'll be without Godwin, and I heard they haven't officially cut Antonio Brown, but I doubt the man actually shows up and gets in the game. So, they'll be without those guys. They're a little banged up, but they still have the offensive line. They still have Tom Brady there, and Tom Brady's going to make the right decision. So, look, I think he'll get tested if that happens. You mentioned it in my live chat the one other time. Cooper Kupp can line up anywhere. I mean, he can even line up in the backfield and catch passes out of the backfield if you need him to. So that's going to be a challenge to see if Gannon just says, all right, Slay, we're just going to have you go everywhere with him, and we'll just figure out the rest of the defense from there. Or, then you still got OBJ and Van Jefferson to worry about with Maddox and Nelson, especially Nelson, too. Point being, that's the Bucs and the Rams. You could also play the Cardinals and the Cowboys. No matter who you play, I think we have a chance against any of those teams because of our run game. But at the same time, I think we're going to have our hands full with any of them, too. Especially, I think Gannon's going to have his hands full game planning for any of those teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Drew said,
how he responds when testing those games.
Yeah. My bad. I think you're lagging a little.
No, you're good.
Yeah, you're lagging a little.
I am lagging.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was just gonna say, like I think we'll learn a lot about Gannon once he gets tested in those playoff games. But at the same time, I think we'll also learn a lot about him in year three when he hopefully gets a legit pass rusher in there. A very talented and athletic linebacker, and then maybe some help at the safety position. So I'm gonna pop back out real quick and pop back in to hopefully be on the same time with you. So I'll be back in like 0.1 seconds.
Yeah. Thank you. It is lagging a little bit, but as he returns, I just want to get to this statement by Drew Johnson. He says, Uncle Drew, what is going on, my guy? What I like about Sirianni is his attitude of growing together. I like most of his schemes, even though he gets too cute early red zone plays in third down. I agree with you. I think something that Sirianni does is he actually knows when to go for it on a fourth down, or sometimes he knows when to call a play on
Yeah.
a third down. But he can cause a little bit of hell. That's every rookie head coach. But
Yeah.
Drew also says what I like about Gannon is that he has made in-game adjustments. My bad. Though he seems to size up opponent too long. I agree. He does make a lot of in-game adjustments on good offenses. Sirianni has significantly improved and good head coach to help our play calling and screenplays. Agreed. What's going on, Vera? SG asks, who do you think will win Coach of the Year for the Philadelphia Eagles? I mean, of course, Sirianni. Who else but Sirianni?
Yeah.
We covered that. Might want to check back a little bit. Thoughts on the Eagles? Covered that as well. But yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
just to touch on Drew's comment too. Yeah, credit to Gannon. He has made some in-game adjustments, and like last week, like we held Washington to field goals the rest of the game. But he also makes a good point. Sizes up opponents too long. I absolutely agree. I mean, there's just some stuff. It's like these guys just march down the field on us coming into the game. It's like, why were you not prepared for half the stuff they threw at us in that first drive? Like it wasn't like Washington showed anything drastically different from what they've done the rest of the season. I mean, that's something in the playoffs. If you let a team just go march down on you on that first drive, that's going to be a confidence killer a little bit. So, people are going to have trust that you're going to make adjustments, but we'll see. Credit to him for the adjustments he does make.
I agree 100%. And something I also want to give Gannon credit for is, this year he hasn't caused the most sacks or at all with the players that he has there on the defensive line. But you really can't blame a guy when your best 3-down defensive end got injured early in the season, which would be Brandon Graham. He could stop both the run and the pass.
Yeah.
So when you don't have a 3-down defensive end, it's kind of going to be really hard to stop any quarterback from getting out of the pocket, because then you don't have that guy that can just stop the run when you need to make a play happen with Graham, and he can stop the pass. So
yeah. To your point, man, it's a big difference when you're rotating Graham, Sweat, Barnett versus Sweat, Barnett, Kerrigan, or Sweat, Barnett, Taron Jackson. Credit to Taron Jackson. I think he's had some nice plays the past couple weeks. I think he's going to be a good young player. But, like you said, losing Brandon Graham was a big piece. And you said it, like, I think people underestimate the ability of a defensive end to stop both the run and the pass. Like, there's a lot of really, really good pass rushers, but some of them aren't very good at stopping the run. Brandon Graham is pretty above average in both of those, areas. So I think you got to give him a lot of credit. And yeah, it's been tough for Gannon. It's tough sledding for Gannon not having a guy like that. So I just completely agree with what you said there.
Yeah. We don't have a 3-down defensive end, as you said. So it's like, as you said, he is slightly above average, when guarding the run, but he could still do it.
Mhm.
And that is probably because of his age. He's not going to always be the quickest to the run, but I mean, he still makes plays happen even at his age, because he's so fast off the line. I mean, you saw the
Yeah.
play that he made in the Super Bowl. So yeah, man. That's one thing a pass coveraging linebacker. We missed that a lot for the last decade.
Yeah.
Um, we really haven't had a good linebacker since maybe or a solid linebacker since Jordan Hicks.
Mhm.
Thank
Definitely.
you.
Yeah.
Um, Drew says, so do you think about the running game stunts to create pressure? Do we have the personnel to do it? Go ahead, Hunter.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we have, I've liked the stunts we have called. I just wish Gannon would do it a little more. I think, like I said, I think with the ones with Avery where Avery comes in on pressure looks, I really, really think he's done a good job. I think Avery's executed so well. And credit the guys in the interior too, like Milton Williams sometimes just making sure to occupy that guard for a split second so that when Avery gets, I mean, when he loops around and stunts on the inside, that guard is already a split second late getting to Avery and he has an advantage, and then you have to hold him or he's going to get pressure. So I think they have done a good job. I think there's been some nice stunts here and there, but I think they could definitely dial up a little more. That's a good point though. I mean, the personnel isn't exactly there. We don't have a ton of. We could use some more athletic guys, but it does help when you have guys like Milton Williams and Josh Sweat who are somewhat athletic. I think Sweat's definitely been fine when utilized without stunts. I mean, he can get home one on one for sure. But yeah, that's a good question, man. I think we have done a little bit, but we could do a little bit more if we had some better personnel next year.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think our personnel hasn't been the best. Now, blitzing has been a big issue for us. As you said, we've had a lot of athletic guys that can, make plays happen. This year, a difference between this year and last year is we've caused more turnovers this year than last year.
Hmm.
That comes with the secondary. That's something we were screaming for in the offseason. Guys that can make plays happen.
Yeah.
And the development of some of the younger guys like Marcus Epps,
Mm.
making plays. Um, Another guy, I want to say he's like been developed like fully yet. But Zach McPherson, when you see him in the game, he tries to make plays. He
Hmm.
always wants the ball. Like when you scouted him, and when me and you scouted him, we saw that he can make plays. Like he was one of those ball hawk guys. So I think the development of some of these younger players has been good. Milton Williams have on the thumbnail. Another good player that I like. I think he's going to be our one of our defensive tackles of the future.
Hmm.
He's definitely going to be there. If he's not, then he's going to be our best depth player on the D line,
Yeah.
and that's another thing I could see.
Hmm.
So yeah, SG showing love to the Eagles as a Niners fan. Hopefully you guys make the playoffs too.
Yeah.
No hate towards you guys, but how have you felt about quarterback one, QB one, Jalen Hurts this season?
Mhm.
And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. He is like I would say I'm neutral on him. I think everyone thinks you got to pick a side on the kid. Look, I mean, I don't think you have to. I mean, a lot of people, it's either oh Jalen Hurts, love Jalen Hurts, he's going to be the MVP in 2022 or 2022 to 2023. He's going to be the franchise guy. And then there's the other side. Jalen Hurts sucks. He's not the future. Go get Aaron Rodgers or someone else this offseason. Draft Kenny Pickett, draft Matt Corral.
yeah,
He's not the guy. So there's been both sides to that. I don't I don't know why. I feel like I'm alone being a standalone in the middle here. Like there's good and bad that you get with Jalen Hurts, as I think is the case with most quarterbacks around his range. I think the thing you have to see with Jalen Hurts too, in terms of if you want to move on from him, it's not like you're gonna have a luxury of options that are better than him, right? Maybe like one or two guys becomes available that are better. Like let's say an Aaron Rodgers comes available. What are the chances you get him? I mean, that this almost every NFL team, except for the ones who have their Brady or Rodgers already, they're not going to go for him. But almost all 32 teams are going to be in the sweepstakes for that. If you can upgrade, you're going to try to get Rodgers. Who's to say that you rely on getting Rodgers just because you don't, you look into it, but doesn't mean you move on from Jalen Hurts just because you're in the sweepstakes for a guy like that. You're going to have to find someone who's better than Hurts. And I'm not sure I'm not sure any of the guys in the draft have shown that they are going to be better than Jalen Hurts in 2022, right? I think Jalen Hurts is fine. I think, Jalen, kind of has peaked and he doesn't really improve off of this year. Then I think, 2023, you look into the quarterback class or who's in free agency and all that. And then you maybe make a move, or maybe even year 4 when Jalen's contract ends, because then Caleb Williams will be a free agent, or he'll be up for the draft that year. So, and next year it's Bryce Young. There's already like a top guy in the next 2 classes. Whereas this year it's like, I love Matt Corral, but I'm not going to say he's like the solidified top guy. And I think he's got some problems too, the more I've looked into him. So point being with Jalen Hurts, I think his pre-snap recognition has been good. I just think like post-snap, there's sometimes, depending on how defense reacts, you got to be able to make some plays. Like the one where he missed Goddard wide open in the corner of the end zone. Pre-snap, he got what he wanted and he did what he was coached to do. But maybe like a veteran QB like Rodgers does notice that Goddard, there's a busted coverage and Goddard's there in the end zone. So little things like that, I think he's just got to get a little bit better on. But I think the IQ is there. I think he's just continuing to learn it, and that takes time. I think a lot of that comes in year 3. Like you said, the accuracy can be a little concerning sometimes too. So he's got to continue to work on his mechanics. But I think Quincy Avery said on his Twitter, like he's starting to move his feet with his eyes. That's obviously essential to playing the quarterback position and making those reads. So I think a big concern coming in this year was, could Jalen get past the first read and the progression and get to like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and could he, continue to recognize defenses and not just take off and run? And I think we've already seen progression. Look, I mean, you remember like in that Chiefs game and in the Buccaneers game, there were times where he would go left, right, back, forward, like in pocket. And it's like, just sit there. Like, you got a clean pocket right now. And I think to his credit, the last few games against the Giants and the Washington football team, he has stayed in the pocket and he's been poised and he's made some plays. So, and he's scrambled when he's needed to. So I want to give him a lot of credit in terms of pocket presence and seeing the field, but there's still more work to do. And I think I felt good about his season, and I think we're going to find out more in the playoff game we play. I think that'll be huge for him to get a playoff game under his belt. And next year, I think next year is going to be kind of, next year could be like make or break for him. So I'm excited. What do you think of him?
Now, most of us Eagles fans don't think he's polished yet, of course, but as every 2-year quarterback or starter in this league, and he only played 4 games in his rookie year, so this is his first technical year of starting as the quarterback one, but he hasn't really been polished yet. Now, he's made plays where you could say that's crazy. Like that's Wentz-esque right there, Mahomes-esque type of plays, like that Cowboys game, that first Cowboys game, Greg Ward touchdown at the end of the game. Now that was when they were playing prevent defense. They really didn't care about the game at that point because we were getting blown out by them. But he rolled out, made this ridiculous throw, just a perfect throw on the money. But that's one of those throws where you say it's Wentz-esque. But there's been times where he's made a lot of what the heck type of like moments, like the Giants game. I mean, that first game, he had 3 interceptions in that game. And that second Giants game, he almost threw an interception. Now, it was on the ground. They did review that, and it was on the ground. But you can't keep making decisions like that.
Yeah.
So, personally, I felt pretty solid about him. Now, I think he's going to be here next year because what quarterback is going to get dealt or cutting something after getting this team to the playoffs is the starting quarterback? What quarterback is going to get dealt like that? So I think there's not really a quarterback that you can say in the draft is better than him, as you said. But right now, the only quarterback that I would look at, and this is if his legal issues get solved and stuff, is Watson. That's 15 years right there of just top 5 quarterback play with Watson. But of course, he's going to have those up and down plays because he's just going to come off a 1-year season of no play or whatnot. But I mean, it's still Deshaun Watson. That dude's like a baller.
Yeah.
So personally, I think Deshaun Watson would be the only quarterback I'd look at if his legal issues, get solved. But
Yeah.
as you said, C.J. Stroud and Bryce Younger there in 2023. So those are the only quarterbacks that I would look at in that draft. And a lot of quarterbacks are going to come out of that draft. This is a make or break year, as you said as well. So if he doesn't do good, you just built a team around him with those 3 first-round picks and the money that you just spent in free agency. Go get your guy in the 2023 draft. My only issue with the organization is I feel like they're going to be a little too impatient with him and just deal him away for no reason. But I hope that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And Drew says Jalen has made great improvement. I feel he has a chance to build on the experience. I agree.
Yeah.
Drew says, do you think we should bring up Huntley or Ceriani? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm guessing you're saying for like the for this game upcoming, since you're probably gonna rest some guys. I would probably now I did note both of them and guys who could be a potential replacement if it came down to like if let's say Jordan Howard can't go for a playoff game or something. I did note both of them as a potential replacement even before Kerryon got picked up. So I was looking at Kerryon. I would give the nod to Huntley just because I think he's been here the whole year. He was here last year. He was on the active roster the entire year. He has the familiarity with the team and the, especially the front office. They know him. And also, I think big thing with Huntley you'll get is he can return kicks. And then, Kenny if Kenny has to step into a bigger role as a running back, he can kind of focus on being just on the offense that week rather than also doing kicks. So that's something. And also, you don't have to worry about injuries, further injuries. Kerryon, I would give a look because if you want to get that big bully ball type of back in there to replace Jordan Howard, that's what you're going to get from Kerryon. I still think Kerryon's got a little bit left in the tank, but at the same time, if you're already in an injury debacle right now, Kerryon with the injuries he's had, that's something you have to consider. And he's also really not going to provide anything on special teams. He'll be a bully ball back and he'll be a good pass protector, which literally replaces Jordan Howard. But, you do want to have the health at the same time. So it depends what you're looking for. I'd probably give the nod to Huntley, but I'd be excited for either of those guys to come up. Obviously, I prefer to see Jordan Howard be the main guy, but yeah, I would probably give Huntley the nod there.
I would give Huntley the nod as well. Of course, you still have Johnson on the practice squad. You may elevate him, but personally, just because Huntley's been on the team since the offseason and hasn't been like cut yet, I would personally elevate him because he's had, the system locked down. Basically, he kind of knows what the system is at this point. So late into the season, and we're about to make a run for the playoffs. So, I mean, I would give him the nod as well. But Johnson, as you said, you're not really losing much with Howard if he's not playing. They're kind of the same type of back. Guys that can just beat you downhill. One of those like physical dominant running backs. Now, he still has the injuries to deal with and stuff. He's been on a couple practice squads, the Raiders. So I don't think he's gonna get elevated. Personally, I would see a guy like Huntley get elevated just based off of the experience and locking down the system. Based off of the entire year.
Yeah.
What's going on, Philly girl? I've been waiting to see Huntley since we got him. Yes, me too. I just don't want to do the same thing that we did to Holyfield that we do to Huntley.
Yeah.
We never gave him a shot, so
yeah.
Go ahead.
And we had chances to call up Holyfield last year too, and we even called him up in the Cleveland game, I believe, and didn't give him any looks. We still played. Miles and I think it was Miles and Boston were like, because I think Clement was hurt. I think Miles and Boston were the two guys. Miles fumbled on the first drive. There's your opportunity next drive. Let's see what Holyfield's got. We had nothing to lose in that game. We sucked. And Miles just fumbled, and they still didn't let Holyfield go out there. And I thought Holyfield looked a little bit better in preseason this year. He looked a little bit faster. He followed the block. He had a couple nice runs, I think. Like, I definitely would have liked to see him get a shot. But yeah, I think Huntley's really like that Swiss Army knife to me. He can rush, he can receive, he can return kicks. I don't know how good he is in pass protection, but like he's fast. I mean, there's definitely ways you could use him in the offense.
Yeah, I agree with you. So let's go back to the offense for a little bit. Offensively, who are some of the younger guys you've been impressed with that Sirianni's developed?
Definitely Landon Dickerson. Look, I mean, I think he had a rude awakening against the 49ers defensive front, like his first action he got. I believe he also played right guard his first game and a half of the season because Brandon Brooks went out. Once Sayamalu went down for the season, which I think was the Cowboys game, they finally got to move him back to left guard, and ever since then, Dickerson has been phenomenal. Look, I think obviously there's still some stuff he can improve upon in pass protection. That's something, every offensive lineman has got to continually work on for their whole career. And I think Dickerson, there's still some times where he gets beat, but in the run game, I mean, when you see him and Mailata come across pulling and they're leading the way for any of our blockers, that's a scary sight. That's a really scary sight. And I think they both do such a good job there. So I think Dickerson and Mailata, I mean, a lot of that credit goes to Jeff Stoutland too. Like, I mean, he has been phenomenal every year we've had him. Keeping him around was the best move this team made this offseason. I don't care about any of the other moves or anything. Keeping him as a coach was the best move they could have made. And yeah, I'm trying to think, like Herbig, I think has played well. I thought Herbig played well last year too. I think there's still times where he frustrates me, but you have to consider too, like we're on our third right guard. I mean, Herbig wasn't really supposed to be playing at all this year, but the fact that there hasn't really been much turnover from Driscoll to him, and again, keeping in mind that Driscoll was only playing because Brooks was out, again, a lot of credit to Coach Stoutland. And even Opeta, like when he came in, he was fine. But that's just a little side note. I mean, I don't know if Opeta is a future guy, but like all our backups are serviceable. And I think that's a credit to Stoutland. But like these guys, especially Dickerson and Mailata on the line, have impressed me. I think Gainwell, I think, I know he hasn't played as much. I definitely would like to see him out there a little bit more, but I understand it. He's buried on a really, really good running back depth chart right now. But they have still found ways to put him out wide too. I like that. He can play wide receiver if you need him to. Like he can split out wide, he can play the slot, or he can run routes out of the backfield. And I think they've done a good job involving him that way. And I also think like, even though he hasn't played as much as I would have liked, there's always benefits that can come from sitting on the sideline and watching a guy like Miles Sanders play, watching a guy like Jordan Howard play or Boston Scott. There's little things Kenny can pick up from each of their games because I think Kenny's got a little bit of power to him, right? He's not Jordan Howard, but he can pick up a little bit of that. I think he can pick up some of Miles' elusiveness and his ability at the second level. And Boston, I mean, I think he can pick up some of Boston's route running too. And Boston's really good when he gets into space. Like there's things he can take from each of those games and apply it to his own. So I think Kenny, there's going to be benefits from him not seeing the field. But when he's been on the field, I mean, I think every game he's played, significant snaps and he gets a goal line carry and gets in the end zone. I think he follows the hole very well. He's a good pass protector too. Like he's going to protect Jalen Hurts when he's back there. So, he deserves a lot of credit. And obviously the big one being, Devontae Smith. Look, the dude is unbelievable. He can adjust to any ball midair. I mean, Jalen, that one he had over Bradbury is the one that really sticks out to me. The toe tap catches are unbelievable. He has done everything and more that we've asked him to. And he almost put up 900 yards in a team that, they probably have one of the lowest pass rates in the NFL because we run the ball so much. Like what he has done, considering how much we've run the ball, credit to him. He has, if you put Devontae in a more pass-heavy offense, I guarantee he would have had over 1,000 yards this year. So I think he's, he'll play this Saturday. I hope he does because I want to see him just get over that 912 yards that Deshaun Jackson has for the rookie record and then break the record, and then we can sit him. But look, he's going to get tested in the playoffs. I'm excited for it. I think Devontae, like he's not perfect like any other wide receiver, but it's such a good feeling to know we have our guy at wide receiver. Like there's no doubt about that. Like any Sunday, I don't care who is out there. We know Devontae is going to go out there and do his job. And I think that's just a very comforting feeling. So I know we probably have some of the same guys. We talked about some of these guys. You and me talked about Kenny a lot before the draft too. We were both high on him, but I know we probably have some of the similar guys, but who are some of the guys you have and anything you would add on to like what I said there too? Cause I want to hear your thoughts.
Yes. Dickerson, as you and Drew said, 100%. he, he's not polished like yet because his pass protection still needs to work, as you said as well.
Mhm.
But that's literally every offensive lineman. Some of the 5-year offensive linemen too.
Mhm.
Sometimes the pass protection can be a little off, but I mean he'll develop that. So I'm not really worried about that for a guy that was supposed to go in the top 20. But the injuries and stuff happened. I'm I'm impressed with how he's played. Mylotta and him on that side, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have Kelsey blocking in the middle. Now
Yeah.
he won't be there for the next couple of years, but who knows? Howie Roseman likes to build up his trenches. Maybe we could get a guy like Tyler Linderbaum.
Yeah. I like Linderbaum.
Yeah, Linderbaum wanted to go one of those guys. Kenyon Green we might look at because we have to fill the interior.
Yeah.
Just as an overall, because I don't think Brandon Brooks is going to be here next year.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't either.
so we need a definite like right guard, someone that's going to be there, like as available too. Like availability, I have to see that too from Brandon Brooks, and he hasn't showed that. Kenny, of course, slot, running back. He's gonna adjust to his physicalness. He has just that little bit of a push to him when he runs the ball. And he's looking at guys like Jordan Howard's, as you said, Sanders Howard. I think he really should pay attention to what Scott is doing because
Mhm.
Scott is a guy that you can like learn from, sit back, take notes,
Yeah.
uh, and he kind of plays like him too. So I'm kind of happy with how he just sits there and just looks at how they play. You also have to like pay attention to Jordan Howard's physicalness, downhill type of runner, and of course Booby, Sanders.
Yeah.
But
What do you think happens with him? Do you think they're going to extend him, or do you think Booby's done after next year?
I think they extend him or at least franchise tag him. I think they franchise tag him because I mean he's shown you this year that when he's healthy and when he's available, he's a guy that you can say um, he will be a scheme fit. Like he is literally everything that Sirianni wants in a running back.
Yeah.
He is a great, well, not great, but good physical downhill type of runner. He
Mhm.
has that burst to him, that juice quickness. So that's one thing with Sanders. But the injuries, availability, that of course people are going to bring that up. But
Yeah.
I'm really happy about how he's played. And let's not forget, this guy has well over 700 scrimmage yards with literally no touchdowns. So
Yeah.
yeah, um, D. Taylor too played well. Yep, I'm gonna get to the defensive side in a minute. But MG, what's good, my guy? He says Kenny G is so available. He can run on the goal line, return kicks, and pass catch. Yep.
Yeah.
Is he personally? I could see him being like a Tariq Cohen. I'm not even gonna lie. Um,
Yeah. Honestly.
Smitty is a true wide receiver. One, he gets open, adjusts to the ball, and he blocks. He is great. Yes. Another thing with the receivers, I'm sad that B Brooks was never fully healthy. He's good, but always hurt. Agreed.
Yeah.
So let's get to this comment right here. Defensively now, who are some of the younger guys that you've seen have been like impressive this year that Gannon's developed on the defensive side?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I think while I haven't loved Gannon's scheme at times, he has developed a lot of guys on the side of the ball, and most notably TJ Edwards. Look, I mean, Eric Wilson, they realized this guy isn't playing well right now, and we've got TJ who's been playing well, and he's ready to be a 3-down linebacker. And they got rid of Eric Wilson and put TJ Edwards in the lineup. So I think that's a credit to them. I think that's a credit to the coaching staff. Nice green screen, by the way.
Yeah, I'm
um,
trying to adjust to it. It's not.
yeah. The green screens on StreamYard, I don't know how people do them. I always can't get them. But um, no, look, I mean, Edwards, we knew he was good as a run stopper, right? Like we knew that was the case. That didn't surprise me at all. But he's also just, I mean, you got to give him credit for it. He's been phenomenal in the running game this year, fitting his gap, communicating to Singleton or Taylor, look, we got a pulling guard, move over, adjust your gap, little things like that, and recognizing run concepts. I think you can tell TJ watches film, and you can tell that in the pass
Yeah.
game too. TJ's first step is always the right step. Like it is very rare that TJ is not in the right place at the right time. If he doesn't get there in time in the pass game, he's going to make a tackle on you and he's going to lay the boom. Like he recognizes pass concepts very well too. That interception he had against Trevor Siemian was unbelievable. The way he recognized it, the way he sunk into space, and the way he went up and grabbed that ball out of the air. My goodness, that was just an incredible play on the ball. So TJ deserves a ton of credit. I'm going to really be praising him this offseason because I think he's a guy, you extended him now. They've rewarded him for it, and he has still played well after the extension. So I love TJ. Maddox, I think part of it with Maddox is, last year they had Maddox playing on the outside. And this year they finally got someone like Steven Nelson, who, look, he's not an all-pro corner. He's not a Pro Bowl corner, but he can at least, he's a serviceable guy who can hold that spot until other guys are ready. And for Maddox, it wasn't even that he wasn't ready. He's 5'9". He is supposed to be a slot corner. He's not supposed to be this, he's not even 5'11". He's not supposed to be this guy who goes up on the outside against DK Metcalf game in and game out, right? So I think that Maddox, he's really developed in that slot position, but also just breaking on the ball. He's made a lot of really nice plays. They play a lot of Tampa too. I remember earlier against the Broncos, he had a play where he caught off a dig route on it was a nice, I think it was a dagger concept, and he cut off the dig route on the throw, and they got a sack because of it, or they forced Teddy B out of the pocket. Like little things like that don't even show up on TV. And I think Maddox always looks to punch the ball out too. Obviously Peanut Tillman, obviously that was what he was known for. Not saying Maddox is him, but it reminds me a little bit when he just tries to go out and punch the ball all the time. So credit to Maddox. I've been very pleased with him. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned Epps too. That's a guy who I think won't get a lot of credit. I mean, obviously our other safeties aren't, playing at an extremely high level, but I think Epps is still, we've played a lot of 3 safety at times. We bring him onto the field for those extra DB sets on 3rd and long, and he makes plays. I mean, he's been very good in the run game. He knows how to get downhill and come down to the box and help out there. He'll make a few plays in pass coverage, and he's a great special teamer to have too. So, look, I mean, Epps, I think, has made some progress. I think he's definitely got a role as that 3rd safety moving forward. At the worst, I think he's a 4th safety and a special teamer. So he's made some strides. And yeah, outside of him, I don't have too many guys. I think, Drew mentioned it, Davion Taylor. I talked about him earlier. He's been really fun to watch. I'm fortunate that he got hurt and he's on IR for the rest of the year. But, I think Milton's made some plays down the back end of the season. I think Taron Jackson has made some plays down the back end of the season. And those are 2 guys I'm going to keep my eye on too. And I think Patrick Johnson's someone who I'll be keeping my eye on. Obviously, I'm biased. I like him a lot. But he's played well in special teams. And I'll be interested if depending on what they do with Avery, I'll be interested to see if Pat Johnson becomes the Sam at some point, or if they look elsewhere for another Sam. That'll be something I think to watch, because they could totally grab a Sam in the draft too. But I think they've kept Patrick Johnson on the active roster for a reason, even if it's just special teams. So those are some of the guys I've been really pleased with their development this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before I get to that, he says Kenny G is a better downhill runner than Miles. Honestly, I might have to agree with that.
Yeah.
And yes, Maddox is definitely balled out. Definitely the scheme fit and the fact that he is not a outside corner. He's a slot guy. There's been times where maybe 3-4 yards gained on him this year, but his most yards I think was on a touchdown with Marquez Callaway for the Saints. That was a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they were playing more soft coverage defense, where they were just giving up. Patrick Johnson family representation.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. But I mean, defensively, man, Epps definitely my favorite player, right behind Slay. Epps, I really like him as a player.
Mm-hmm.
Dude's a dog. I'm not even gonna lie. I like how he plays, that aggressiveness.
Yeah.
He has that hard hitting mentality, man. For a guy his size, he hits really freaking hard. I'm not even gonna lie.
Who was that game? He had that one nasty. Was it the Giants game where he blew a dude up and I think he knocked the ball out or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was the Washington game. First Washington. It must have been one of those games.
I think you're right. I think it was the Washington game.
Yeah. You might be right though. It might have been the Giants. Oh, it was a Giants game. I think he hit the dude in the middle. Um,
Mhm.
was it?
He has it on his Instagram. Hold on. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was the Giants game.
the Giants game.
Yeah, he blew up. It was 2nd and 4, and he blew up. I can't even tell who that is, but he lit someone up.
Yes, he hits hard for a guy that like that small. Man, he hits really hard.
Yeah, it was
Um,
Darius Slayton. That's who it was.
Slayton, yes, Slayton. I really thought that was gonna be like some personal foul call or something because you know the NFL with their little cute cupcake foul calls or flags and stuff. Just piss off moments with the flags and stuff. Like
Yeah,
you just want to like throw something at your TV because of the damn flags and stuff and the refs.
my bad.
Um,
It was Pharaoh Cooper, not
Cooper,
Darius Slayton. My
yes,
bad.
Cooper. That's one of their special teams guys, I think.
Yeah. Mhm.
For the Giants. So Epps 100%. Taylor, he's on IR. He's when I got to watch him, he's pretty fast. He plays more like a safety, honestly,
Yeah.
than a damn linebacker, but
Yeah.
he plays good at both positions, linebacker and like more of like a box type of linebacker, where he's gonna line up on like more sort of that high roll where Edwards just gets the middle. He's the guy that senses what the quarterback's doing. He's looking out for the running back, the tight end. He's just looking out for literally the entire field.
Yeah.
He is what you would call the guy that calls out the plays before it even happens, like the Luke Kuechly's of the world when he was in the NFL. That's your guy right there, and that could be your future middle linebacker if you have something there. And he's also been really good on special teams, and he's
Mhm.
definitely played up to par with that 1 year extension. So him, Mcpherson for the little moments I got to see him. He seems pretty solid. I like to see him more next to Slay a little bit
Yeah.
because I think a ball hawk next to Slay is pretty solid. Um, Milton Williams, 100%. I just love him as a player, man. He's definitely got my respect.
Mhm.
Ron Jackson, another player as you mentioned. Johnson, I would love to see more of. Um, Gowan, I want to see more of too. Tay
Mhm.
Gowan and Josiah Scott. Seen him a little bit.
Mhm.
Seems pretty solid. And speaking of the penalties, even though we had some bad timely one, it is fair cry from what we're doing in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
Um, definitely. So I want to follow up two questions here, and then we'll wrap it up after these two questions. Double question: um, Is there a chance we can get into the first round, or we get past the first round? And
Mhm.
who would you say is the Eagles' best matchup in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a chance. Like I said, we're gonna have our hands full with whoever we play. No matchup is gonna be an easy matchup, but um, again, the brand of football we play, running the football, eating clock, keeping our defense fresh, keeping our offense on the field. That is the exact offense you need to win playoff games most of the time. Now, I'm not saying that's the exact philosophy every offense needs to have, but once it gets down to playoff football, it's a little bit colder. You're going on the road. Yeah, it depends on who we play. If we play Tampa or LA, I mean, obviously it's not going to be that cold, but and LA is going to be indoors. But look, who's to say like if we play Tampa, like what if it rains that day and then you force Tampa to throw the ball a little bit more. Then their offensive line is going to get a little more tired getting back in pass protection. You're going to force these guys to catch the ball in the rain. You know, you could definitely pull off the upset there if that happens. So, um, I think our brand of football translates, and I think especially keeping our defense off the field because I don't have a ton of confidence in them. I have a lot of confidence in our offense, but yeah, I think there is. And as far as best matchup goes, that's tough. I've really been debating it with the Philly insider guys. I know we were talking about it on the one live we had, and I've gone back and forth. So I'll just go through all of them and kind of give my thoughts because I don't know if there's one that I particularly want to see over the others. Maybe if I had to lean one way, maybe Dallas or Arizona. Dallas because I want to get revenge on them, and I will say if we lose to Dallas, it'll be horrible. But and then Arizona just because I think Cliff Kingsbury at this point in the season is a fraud. So, but look, I mean, Tampa, they are missing some weapons. Obviously, Mike Evans is really the only star left out of the receiver core, but they still got Brashad Perryman. They still got Scotty Miller. I mean, they've still got some guys there, like Cyril Grayson's obviously made some plays this year out of nowhere. They still have Tyler Johnson too, who they drafted middle rounds a couple years ago, I think. And they still have their tight ends too. Like and Fournette might be back. Like they're still going to be able to run the football. They still have their offensive line there, and they still have Brady making the decisions. So that's going to be a tough matchup. But look, their defense has been depleted on the back end a little bit. And I know they have a good run D, but honestly, I think just having Stoutland, I think we know every team's run fits and we're going to be able to attack them. So I feel okay about us going up against their defense, but I think that would be a tough matchup. The Rams, you said a big play, Sly. I mean, Cooper Kupp, we talked about it earlier in the stream. Look, he can play the X, he can play the Y, he can play the Z, and he can play in the backfield if you need him to as well. Like, you might not hand the ball off, but you could definitely scheme and that way you're getting him out of a press look. Like, you're not going to get him pressed at the line from Darius Slay if he's in the backfield, because you can't do that. You can get him in bunch formations, and then it's going to be tough because then you have to switch up your coverage. Who's got the in breakers? Who's got the out breakers? And you could have Slay follow him, but it's going to complicate things. And there are ways that they can get him open no matter what. And if he's not open, they're going to go to OBJ or Van Jefferson, who can also play pretty well. And they've got some running backs there too. Like they know how to utilize the running backs no matter who's back there. So the only thing with them is obviously Stafford's giving away picks right now a lot of the time. And that makes me comfortable. Their defense definitely is not what it was under Brandon Staley a year ago. They still got their studs there, but I think their defense is a little bit more vulnerable. So both those teams got some weaknesses. I personally do want to see the Rams because I think we would sell out their stadium. Like, I think we would definitely have a lot of fans there. We always do well there. And I do believe Matt Stafford might give away the ball a couple times. But then you go to the Cowboys. Again, another team has a quarterback who's giving away the football right now. And you saw what happens when you put pressure looks at them. They didn't have a lot of answers against Arizona. And Arizona's put a lot of guys at the line of scrimmage, and that's the way we're gonna play on defense. We're gonna be aggressive. So I think that the Cowboys, if you can get a little pressure on them, Gallup's out for the year now. Shout out to him. I love Gallup, but it's really a shame he got towards ACL. But they're vulnerable. But then again, you got Micah Parsons on the defensive side. I really don't want to deal with him right now. That dude is everywhere. And then the Cardinals, again, like I said, they put a lot of guys on the line of scrimmage. Even that alone, I think, scares me with a young quarterback like Jalen Hurts trying to set up the protection pre-snap. So, yeah, I think the team I'd want to play is the Rams. But again, I don't think there's any perfect matchup. And I think the most likely team we're supposed to play is the Bucs. Second most likely is the Rams based on the scenarios I've drawn out. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts, man. Who do you want to play? Who do you think we have the best shot against, and are we going to make it out of the first round?
I mean, right now we're supposed to play the Rams because they're the second seed, but that'll probably change because I mean, personally, they Cowboys have said, and this is just I don't know why McCarthy would do this. He's starting his starters.
I hope we bang a couple of them up for next week.
Right. So I don't get that. You're gonna start your starters when one of your best receivers just tore his ACL. Like, that makes no sense. McCarthy, I just don't understand that philosophy. But personally, I would love to see a team like the Rams. But I think right now, as of today, the Buccaneers, I think they would be our best matchup because we can run the ball. And last time we played them, AB, he was the primary reason we were getting baked on defense because he was always open in that game. There was really not a guy that could stop him.
And not to cut you off, man, but we're one Marcus Epps head turn away from maybe getting the ball back in that game.
So personally, if we played a lot of man coverage, but based off of how good AB is just like a receiver, he can beat those man coverages. He can beat the press coverage. I mean, Jalen Ramsey had a tough time on this guy. So it goes to show you how good AB is. When he's not running off the field and stuff. But yeah, AB is AB. But like Brady's team right now, as Drew pointed out in the chat, they are struggling. I mean, personally, I think I would love to line up Slay one-on-one with a guy like Mike Evans.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Evans, I think he can follow him around all day long. Now Evans will get his catches here and there, but I think I'd pretty be confident with a guy like Slay
Yeah.
going everywhere he goes for like every play.
Yeah.
And that'll open up a guy like Scotty Miller, Tyler Johnson, but you have Steven Nelson on the outside against Tyler Johnson, and then you have the slot guys like Miller. And I think Avante can guard him because he's done really good in the slot in the nickel. So personally, I would love to see a team like the Rams. I don't think we'll beat them based off the fact that you said Cooper Kupp, you can line them up anywhere. You can line them up in like the screens. You could get him off the press coverage, man coverage, any corner. Really, he's done really well this year. They just know how to scheme him up, and that comes with a gunslinger type of quarterback like Stafford. He's not like Goff, so yeah. Go ahead though.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't really add anything to that. I mean, I would just give you your credit for saying that about Kupp too, because that was you who mentioned it first. So, but yeah, like Drew said, this is not basketball. So even if we play the Bucks, like Brady can only do what he has with the team around him, and like who's to say there's not a miscommunication with a guy like Tyler Johnson at some point? Of course, Brady's going to make sure those guys tighten up, but those guys are going to be forced in the starting lineup, and a lot of that stuff you like to go over in the film room during the regular season, because then you can fix it up for the next week. This is the playoffs. There is no like go back to the film room unless you win. I mean, if you make one of those mistakes, it could like one mistake in a playoff game can win or lose you a game. So, depending on which side you're on of the mistake, obviously. But yeah, I mean, Bucks could absolutely right now they're beat up both sides of the ball. They could absolutely be vulnerable, and it would be beautiful to if we could beat Brady. That would be something special.
Oh, so. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing when your own division. Once, like some of our division teams, like the Giants and Washington, would love to see us beat Brady because even though it's the NFC East, we still don't like Tom Brady. It's just a whole. So we root for each other because us and the Giants primarily have beaten Brady a lot, and the Cowboys don't like Brady. Of course, I will never root for the Cowboys, even if they're playing Tom Brady.
Yes.
The Cowboys is just the Cowboys. But if it's a Washington or maybe the Giants in like a Super Bowl or like the championship game, I would say, of course, I would root for them because I hate Brady. I don't want to see him win. I'm sick and tired of seeing him win.
Yeah.
It's literally been the childhood guy. Like, I've only seen a Super Bowl. And, of course, I don't have it rough. Like, a guy like Drew, he's watched football for probably over 20-plus years with the Eagles, 30. He's seen a lot with Brady, and he's another guy that Brady has given trouble to, but like, I mean, personally, I just don't think they're a team that scares me like the most because, as you said, they're banged up on defense and offense. Secondary, it's not that good. They lost one of their best corners. What's his name? I forgot his name. That's their number one corner. It's not Bunting, but it's the other.
It's not. Corner. It was a Carlton Davis.
Davis. They lost him. And I think, as I said already, Slay versus Evans, I think that's going to happen like that matchup for the entire game.
Yeah.
And then you have Steven Nelson with Johnson and then Avante with Miller. So personally, I think the only two like rough areas that Brady beats you in is when you play soft coverage because then that leaves up the middle. And the Buccaneers have one of like the best groups at the tight end position with O.J. Howard, Gronk, Cameron Brate. Those three can beat you easily in the middle. And that running game also, helps Brady a lot.
Yeah.
Yep. Nobody's like Brady. So that's one thing I will understand, though. Brady, oh, man. I get it's the Bucks, but the only reason we'll lose that game is because of number 12 himself. TV.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But we're nearing an hour 30. It's been one fun stream with my guy Hunter. Before we go, let them know where they can find you. And hold on, let me share my screen right quick. I mean, these guys have already surpassed 700. Um, like props up to them. They are 5 subs ahead of 700. So let's get them to 1K. Um, so we need them in that 1K group, man.
Yes.
These guys work super hard. Hunter, Ian, Sanjay, all of them. But where can they find you?
Yeah, I mean, first off, BPS, thank you for having me on. It won't be long before I get you on my channel because we got playoff stuff to talk about coming up. So we'll get you on there, and I really do appreciate you reaching out because, like I said, I was out of touch with most of the Eagles content creator community just because of school this semester. So it means a lot when you guys do reach out and keep in touch. And yeah, congrats to you, man, on getting in the 1K club. Huge accomplishment. I know YouTube tried. I was following it, even though I wasn't in touch with you a ton. I saw they tried to take it away from you a couple times, but
Yeah.
you persevered and still got there. So congrats, man. And yeah, you guys can find me on Philly Insider Podcast. Like BPS said, it's me and 5 other guys, and we're working hard. Rossi's gonna be back on doing some stuff more often now. And yeah, I write on InsideEagles.com, so you can find me on there too. And yeah, hopefully some big things in the works. So I'm excited for that, and I'm excited to see how playoffs turn out. And yeah, I mean, playoffs ending will not mean the end of the season. We'll have draft stuff to talk about all leading up to April. I'm sure me and BPS will absolutely be doing some mock draft simulators. So we'll be going through all that stuff for you guys. But thank you again for having me on, man. I appreciate it. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing. Keep up the hard work on your channel. And you're putting out content like every second. So I got to respect it, man.
Thank you, man. One
Yeah.
hell of a journey, but school interferes with a lot of that.
Yeah.
So like sometimes I can't get the content out, but hey, I'm just trying. When I have the free
Yeah.
time. But appreciate you for coming on. One of the most like reoccurring guests that I've had on is you and a couple other guys, but definitely you
Or
by
MG.
MG too. So yeah, we have to get another one going with this one,
Yes.
especially on your guys' channel. We've yet to do that one in a pretty long minute, so that one's probably in the works. So
Yeah.
y'all have a good day in the chat. Thank you to the people that stopped by. Go show some love to my guy, Philly Insider Podcast, Hunter, Sanjay, all them guys over there. Go subscribe to them. Get them over 1,000. Your boys out. Peace. Cowboys suck.